Welcome to Ray Reads, a podcast where I talk about the books I'm currently reading like I'm in a sad little one-man book club. For this episode of Ray Reads, I will be discussing The House of Always, Book 4 of the Chorus of Dragons series by Jenn Lyons. Okay, so in the previous books, I loved the annotated record of events format, but for this book, sadly, I do feel that the format does not work so well. It is a back and forth tale between everyone's memories and their reactions to these memories and their current predicament being trapped with Volcaroth. The mind game going on here is a face-off to determine whether or not humans are all inherently evil, as the dark god Volcaroth is inclined to believe. My problem is just that I think that it is a little too convenient that Volcaroth and Kieran pull out the group's individual memories in chronological order. I mean, this makes the story easier to read, but logistically, it doesn't really make sense. And more than that, I found myself growing tired of the repetition, especially at the beginning. A lot of the reactions from the group in Shadrach Gore were too similar, and the initial panic and arguing bored me over the first chapters. I even think that the phrase, "the world changed," was not very creative, and there could have been more ways to signal the start of a memory vision. The next thing I have to get out of my system is Quone. I loved his character in Name of All Things, Book 2, as he was a sweet little priest dedicated to doing everything within his power to help others. Now, he has been assigned by his master, Raylos Far, to befriend Galen Damon, Kieran's nephew/brother, who has grown a lot over the last 4 years. When Raylos Far first shows Quone the Damon prince, Quone immediately thinks Galen is the most attractive man he's ever seen. And this launches Quone into his existential gay panic, which goes on to define his character in this book. He experiences denial in the same way, really almost the exact same way Kieran had with Terath. Honestly, I think this was a poor choice. Kieran's internalized homophobia made sense because of his upbringing in the capital of Kor. Quone's internalized homophobia, on the other hand, feels forced and out of character. Although Vijay priests take vows of celibacy, it would seem that their order still promotes tolerance and acceptance of others. And especially after his time spent in Jorat, a dominion which is very accepting of non-cishet identities, cishet meaning cisgender and heterosexual, I think he should be an ally because of his experiences here. I just could not believe it when he admits to Galen that he thinks homosexuality is a sin. Where did this come from? Quone met multiple queer people in Jorat, including Mayor Dorna and Sir Barramon, who are openly and happily gay. Now, Quone had been confused at first there, but he wasn't a bigot. Really, between the two men, Galen should have been the one struggling with the internalized homophobia due to his abusive father, Darzan. It is strange to think that Galen is more mature than Quone in this matter. Furthermore, it is strange that Quone suddenly finds himself so attracted to Galen and even to the guard Anne Lear. Just a quick side note here. I wish I had more information on Anne Lear and his association with Raylos Far. I think that would be interesting. But anyway, in Jorat, Quone had received invitations to bed with others, but he had never shown even the faintest interest. But now, out of the blue, he is so overwhelmed by these sexual feelings he needlessly wants to suppress. Don't get me wrong, I do love that we're getting another cute LGBTQ couple here. It's just that a lot of this seems too out of character for Kwon. I just wish that there had been a greater focus on his existential crisis over the loss of his faith, rather than his gay panic. Speaking of LGBTQ couples I have issues with in this story, I have to admit that I do not ship Saivin and Talea. It is understandable that Talea would fall in love with her caring mentor. But I think that Saivin moved into this relationship with Talea much too soon after she lost her husband and son. Talea was giving, and she followed Saivin to the ends of the world on a quest for revenge that she may not have even believed in. Saivin took that all for granted, and even hurt Talea. Saivin needs to put herself together before she even entertains the idea of having a romantic relationship. And Talea deserves better. Honestly, I would ship her with Shalorin over Saivin. I do have questions regarding Shalorin. Before she married into House Demon, she belonged to House Detalis. The interesting thing about this is the fact that her house symbol is the lion. This is significant since the prophecies tell of the hawk and the lion. The first book states that these titles belong to Kieran and Janelle respectively, but maybe they were meant to refer to Shalorin and Galen. It would make more sense that the lion would be Shalorin rather than Janelle. Ultimately, this book is all about personal conflicts and how incredible coincidences bring all these different characters together. The quests to resurrect Jareth and obtain specific cornerstones, Grimward for the resurrection, and the Stone of Shackles to use against Sulis invite these unlikely parties. This novel is really an in-between story centered around all of these pieces being brought together and to put them in a position for the next book. But it is interesting how important Jareth's resurrection is to the plot now, with how minor of a character he had been to this series. So I'm excited to find out what role Jareth will play moving forward. Now, I know I have said this before, but I absolutely must say it again. Thurvishar deserves more attention in this series. It is criminal how Jenn Lyons neglects Thurvishar. He is so easily overlooked that even I forgot he was one of the first few to enter Volkaroth's Mindscape prison. I cannot express how deeply I want more chapters from Thurvishar's point of view. At first, I thought he did not share his perspective for the sake of neutrality as an annotator. But if Sanera can get away with sharing her point of view, then Thurvishar damn well can too. And considering the fact that he is Raylosvar's parallel, I feel greatly robbed by his lack of story. As Sanera pointed out, Thurvishar is so similar, yet so different from his grandfather, Raylosvar. They are both brilliant, powerful wizards who want to save humanity. It is so interesting to compare these two characters, and that is why I demand more plot time for my neglected Hell Warrior. At least Sanera takes great note of Thurvishar. I think she is the only one who truly appreciates Thurvishar as a person rather than a useful wizard. I love how Sanera betrayed Raylosvar to side with his morally superior mirror match. And it's beautiful how Thurvashar has always believed in her and encouraged her to be better. As a telepath, Thurvashar understands Cinera better than she does herself. But to be fair, that is not entirely her fault, because Raylo Svar stole her memories and locked up her empathy. I wonder if she will remember that Dorothy's boy, Janelle, had once caught her crying over, and what his significance really was to her. It always amazes me how much Raylo Svar does and does not care about others. He is evil. Yet Kwon notices how he cried after Gorokai destroyed the Temple of Light and stole the cornerstone, Skyfire, killing hundreds in the process. And another thing, it is fitting that he housed his niece Ian Eric's cornerstone within the temple he created. I am curious to discover who exactly has Skyfire and what they plan to do with it. Was it Volkaroth using his power to control dragons? Does he want to cure his daughter's insanity? One final note on the families here. I am certain that Thana's cup was made for her by Terraith. The cup is described as being amateurly crafted, and with the red glaze which Terraith had confided in Janelle was his favorite color. It's a little heartbreaking to realize that Kemezra chose this object as the source of Death's resurrection. Well, ultimately, she did intend to sacrifice her son to buy herself more time. It's so sad that at one point she truly did love her son. While this book may have been my least favorite in the series, I think it is a great book, and I am so excited for the next one. Jenn Lyons is definitely one of my favorite authors, so I have hope that the next book will be the best one yet.